Hey, third graders. I'm sorry I can't be with you live today, but I'm at a really exciting conference, a virtual conference today, learning about all different kinds of technologies that I can bring back to you and maybe we can work in during library time. This is actually the conference where I first learned about coding and teaching kids to code. So I get a lot of great ideas from this conference. So I'm hoping that today I get some more great ideas to bring to you. Speaking of technology, space travel requires massive amounts of technology. And since third graders talk so much about space when you are in third grade, we've already learned about the sun. We read that fantastic book. We read about the Mars rover, and we learned all about the red planet, Mars. And today I thought we would round out our space talk talking about the moon. And talking about technology, boys and girls, technology wasn't as prevalent when we first sent spacecraft into space. So we had to rely on human brain function for a lot of these mathematical equations to get spacecraft out into space because we didn't have these machines that we could just plug things in. There had to be lines and lines and lines of code written out by hand instead of through technology. And the people that created that code, that mathematical equation to get the spacecraft into space, were actually called human computers. And today we're going to talk about one very important human computer. Katherine Johnson. Amazing woman. If you've ever seen the movie Hidden Figures or read the book Hidden Figures, she is one of the main characters. Brilliant mathematician. Now, as you may or may not know, Katherine Johnson was actually somebody that was so important to NASA that some of the earliest astronauts, like John Glenn, who was the first person to go all the way around Earth to orbit Earth, he wouldn't even go into space until Katherine Johnson checked the numbers. He didn't care what computer told him what mathematical equation. He said, I'm not going into space unless Katherine Johnson checks my numbers. She was actually born during a time, boys and girls, where it wasn't always acceptable for minorities or women to be involved in something like this. But she broke barriers. She broke through. She was brilliant. She found her way to show everybody, I can do this. So let's read. We're going to read a quick book about Katherine Johnson. Then we are going to do a super fun activity based upon how they get rockets zoomed into outer space. It's such a fun game. But first, I have a movie that I want to show you about Katherine Johnson. There's words to read, but they go so fast. So I'm going to tap into my super fast Mrs. Curran talking to read this to you as I'm showing you the movie. So this is a movie about Katherine Johnson and how wonderful and amazing she is. So hold tight. Got to get my mouth ready for these fast words. Here we go. Katherine Johnson, NASA mathematician. Here we go. I gotta check my time. All right. Katherine Johnson. She was a mathematician, responsible for calculations behind early space missions. She was born August 26, 1918, and was one of the first Black students at West Virginia University. She was hired by the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, which was something right before NASA was created. She was one of the human computers performing calculations. She worked in a segregated all-Black department there under pioneering mathematician Dorothy Vaughan. Hey, Dorothy. Now, I got to stop it for a second. All right, it says Cold War tensions. What's that? Okay, so a while ago, Russia used to be called USSR, and then there was America, and we were involved in the Great Space Race. That was part of the Cold War. We were trying to be the first country to get somebody into space. The USSR won. It wasn't America, but that really lit a fire under America. And we said, if they could do it, we could do it too. And that's where Katherine Johnson comes into play. Here we go. So this was the USSR's rocket going into space. And Americans were like, oh, we can do it too. So this is where Katherine comes into play. Johnson used geometry to map out NASA's crucial missions, and she enabled Alan Shepard to be the first American in space, and John Glenn the first American to orbit Earth. In fact, Glenn refused to undertake his mission until Johnson personally ran the numbers for his space mission. She contributed to the Apollo 11 moon landing and the rescue effort for the Apollo 13 astronauts who were in trouble in space. She retired from NASA in 1986, and Barack Obama gave her the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2015. This lady here wrote a book called Hidden Figures, all about her. And then there was a movie based on it and won an Oscar. And then NASA created this whole building in her name. Whew! That was a lot of talking. I like to talk fast, but that was some really fast talking. So now that we learned a little bit about Katherine Johnson, let's go ahead and read this book. The Bold Story of Katherine Johnson, the extraordinary mathematician who calculated the flight path for NASA's first Apollo moon landing. Here we go. Counting on Katherine. Ah, look at that math problem. I'd probably get stuck right around here, but she just kept going. Katherine loved to count. She counted the steps to the road, the steps to the church, the number of dishes and spoons she washed in the bright white sink. The only thing she didn't count were the stars in the sky. Only a fool, she thought, would do that. Even so, the stars sparked her imagination. What was out there? Katherine yearned to know as much as she could about numbers, about the universe, about everything. Katherine's boundless curiosity turned her into a star student. She was so bright that she skipped 3 whole grades. That'd be like if you went to 7th grade next year instead of 4th grade. She catapulted right past her brother, and he wasn't too happy about that. By the time she turned 10, Katherine was ready for high school. 10! She just skipped over middle school. But by then, America was legally segregated or separated by race. Her town's high school didn't admit Black students of any age. Wow. Katherine burned with fury. She wanted more than anything to keep learning. There was still so much to know. Count on me, Katherine's father told her. So by working day and night, or night and day, he earned enough money to move the family to a town with a Black high school. Katherine loved high school. She was good at every subject, but math was still her favorite. She dreamed of becoming a research mathematician, making discoveries about the number patterns that are in the foundations of the universe. In those days, though, there was no jobs as research mathematicians for women. Professions most available to them were either teaching or nursing, which are wonderful jobs, both of those. But, she wanted to do something else. So Katherine became an elementary school teacher. She liked her job and she loved her students, but she never stopped dreaming about exploring numbers. Now, in the 1950s, the U.S. government National Advisory Committee on Aeronautics hired thousands of new employees. It even started hiring Black women as mathematicians. Katherine heard about the mathematician jobs. Her heart raced with excitement. Perhaps her dream would come true after all. But when she applied for one of the positions, she was told it was already filled. Katherine had to wait a whole other year until new spots opened up. Her patience paid off because she got the job. A few years later, the Soviet Union sent a rocket ship into space, launching a space race with the United States. We talked about that. NACA was rolled into a new space agency called NASA. Katherine now found herself at the heart of America's space program. She worked as a computer. Electronic computers were not really widely used yet. She was calculating long series of numbers. all the computers were women. They were given the tasks that men thought were boring or unimportant. But that didn't bother Catherine. She knew without her contribution, a spaceship couldn't reach the destination, nor safely return to Earth. Here's why. Sending a rocket ship into space is like throwing a ball into the air. So think about it. At first, the force of the throw sends the ball up, up, up. But as soon as the energy runs out, the ball's path curves right back down towards the ground where it lands depending on what angle it was thrown at it. Okay, what do I got to throw here? A pen. So if I throw it right up, it just goes right down. I scared my dog, I think. And now if I throw it a little bit further out of an angle, of course, it goes farther. Don't throw things around your house, but you get on how that happens, right? If you throw something up, it goes directly up and then comes kind of down in the same path. If you throw it more out, it keeps going in that trajectory. So as the energy runs out, the ball's path curves right back toward the ground where it lands depending on what angle it was thrown and how high and how fast it flew. Because math is a kind of language, Catherine could ask those questions. How high would the rocket ship go and how fast would it travel? Using numbers. And numbers would provide the most all-important answer. Where would it land? You couldn't have it land just in the middle of nowhere or in the middle of a neighborhood. It had to land in a special spot where it was safe. So to find out, Catherine plotted the numbers that she had calculated on a graph. When she joined the points together, they formed a curved line. At one end of the line was Earth at the time the rocket ship launched. At the other was where Earth would be when the ship landed, because Earth is not staying still. We are moving and a grooving. We're going around the sun. We're spinning. So in order for the rocket ship to come back to Earth, it had to go wherever Earth was. Okay. Catherine's reputation for accuracy and strong leadership skills, she was known for asking plenty of questions, got her promoted to Project Mercury, a new program designed to send the first American astronauts into space. Mercury's mission was going to be dangerous, so dangerous that even the project's star astronaut John Glenn refused to fly unless Catherine okayed the numbers. You can count on me, she said. Glenn's spacecraft, Friendship 7, orbited Earth 3 times and returned home safely. Glenn became the national hero. Catherine was promoted again. Now she was asked to calculate the flight paths for Project Apollo, the first flight to the moon. Count on me, she said. So on July 20th, 1969, the Apollo 11 astronauts walked on the moon. Their feat was celebrated around the world. More triumphs followed. Get out of the way, Ms. Kern. Apollo 12 rocketed to the moon in November 1969. But Apollo 13 launched on April 11th, 1970. But on the third day of Apollo 13's flight, the worst thing happened, an explosion in space. Could the crippled spaceship make it to the moon? And if it didn't, would it be able to get back home to Earth? The 3 astronauts on board were in grave peril. Commander Jim Lovell told Mission Control, "Houston, we have a problem." This is where that famous saying comes from. When this spacecraft, Apollo 13, blew up in space, they were okay because they were in this section here. It was back here that exploded, but then they were out without a very important part of their rocket ship, and they had to figure out a way to get back home. Back on Earth, Katherine Johnson got a phone call. Her flight path calculations would have to be done all over again and perfectly. It would be the toughest challenge of her life. Catherine told Mission Control, "You can count on me." She rolled up her sleeves, took a deep breath, and began doing her math. She worked hard and fast. A few hours later, Catherine's calculations were finished. The flight path to return home would take the ship around the far side of the moon. From there, the moon's gravity would act like a slingshot to zing the ship back to Earth. To get home, the crew of Apollo 13 would have to follow Catherine's course exactly by burning off fuel at precise intervals. She figured all of that out. If the astronauts made a mistake, their ship would drift through space forever. Catherine waited anxiously to hear the astronauts' report. Finally, it crackled over the loudspeaker. "We've got it," and Apollo 13 was back on track. Katherine Johnson had done it. She brought Apollo 13 home. She was no longer the kid who dreamed of what lay beyond the stars. She was now a star herself. So, this is kind of some of the calculations that went into her getting Apollo 13 back on Earth. So many cool things in here. So, now what we're going to do is we are going to take, let me go back to this page. We're going to take this idea of jet propulsion and throwing things, and we're going to play a really cool online game. But how amazing was Katherine Johnson, boys and girls? What an inspiration during a time where it wasn't encouraged to be a mathematician for her because of not only her gender, but because of her race as well. She broke barriers, and because of her, we were able to not only send somebody to the moon, but we were also able to get those astronauts who were in danger in space safely back home to Earth. Okay, so I want you to take a look at this. We're going to be doing an online activity like this. Angle of how high you throw something and how fast you throw it. Those are the two things that have to go into play when they are launching something into space. So what we're going to do today is I have this really cool game we're going to play, and you're going to have to rely on two things: speed and angle to get something to land in the correct place, just like Katherine Johnson did. Okay, so Okay, sorry we got cut off a little bit there, but now that we're finished with our story, we are going to play our game on Brain Pop. So in order to get to the game, boys and girls, we're going to go right down here, boop, to where it says Rocket Launch Game. And you're going to go ahead and click that. I'm excited. And it is going to take it. Give it a second to load. It takes a second to load. Perfect. Once you see this, you're ready to go. You do not have to worry about logging in. You can actually play the game without having to log in. You just go ahead and click play game. And wait patiently again. All right, and then you're going to click intro. All right, you may only touch 3 things today, just 3. Don't worry about any of this stuff up here. Don't worry about this here. The only thing you're going to worry about is the cannon, the target, and the speed, and the launch button. So that's 4 things. Sorry. You're just going to touch the cannon, the target launch pad, the launcher, and the speed. Don't worry about anything up here at all. So if you remember that page when Katherine was drawing the trajectory of something going up and then coming back down, our job today is pretending that we too are having something that needs to land in a special spot, and it's the target. That's where we need our object to land. Today it's a pumpkin. It's not a rocket. We are trying to get a pumpkin to land on this target. So you can move this up and down to change the angle of the pumpkin. You can change the speed. It's miles per second. So you could change it really, really, really fast, or drag this all the way back down to really, really, really slow, 0 miles per second. I'm going to try, let's see, fast. I'm going to do 21 miles per second, and I'm going to do this 60 degrees. And then I'm going to click launch. So I change the speed, I change the angle, and I'm going to click launch. Whoa! I don't even know. It didn't even come down. Okay. So thank goodness I didn't try to land any people on the moon. I would have swung them way past the moon. All right. Let's slow it down, Mrs. Kern. I'm going to go with, let's say 12 miles per hour. And I'm going to move this up just a little bit more. Okay. So I change the speed. I change the angle. And go. Go, 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 go. Oh. Okay. It's better, but you can see the trajectory was much better than my first try. So I'm going to actually move this just a little bit down to change my trajectory. And then I'm not going to mess with the speed this time. Launch. Go, 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 go. Boom! Right in the center. Nice job, Mrs. Curran. Okay. Now I'm going to click reset right down here to get rid of everything reset, but I'm going to move my target to way over here. Let's just see what happens if I zoom the pumpkin without changing anything. Oh, I can change the speed just a little bit more. Let's try 16, 17 and try to launch it without changing the angle. Nice job, Mrs. Curran. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and change again. I'm going to move this a little bit closer. Okay, you get the idea. I will let you touch one other thing. You can move this up and down if you want to, because watch how this changes things. So if it's really, really low, you can see it landed right there. If I change this higher, let's see what happens. It actually goes a little bit further because it's up higher. So you can change that too. I guess basically just don't touch anything over here. So you can see how Katherine Johnson wasn't using brain pop. She had to use actual mathematic equations to get something to land where it was safe. And we can, try this on Brain Pop, but she had to have it just right because there was people's lives were in her hand. So you can imagine how important it was for her to get it all the exact right mathematical equation and the exact angle. So boys and girls, right now that you know how to play this game, you're going to go back to Google Classroom. I'll show you one more time and click this where it says rocket launch game and it says projectile motion. Click that, get started. You don't even need to sign into it. All right, have fun with it. And I'll see you next week live and in person. Toodaloo, have a good rest of your day, kiddos. Go play the game. Bye. Go play the game. Go back to Google Classroom. Bye.